But of course, you know me. My name is Dr. Keith McNally. I'm here with my co-host, Noémi Beres, and we are starting a brand new podcast. We are bringing you something very special. It's called the Sacred Divine. And as part of our mission to transform your life, we're going to talk about the sacred divine, what that is. We're going to define spirituality and how to really dive deep into who you are as an individual, a person, and what you want to create with that throughout your life. And so, Noémi, welcome to the conversation. Welcome to the sacred divine. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Keith. I'm very well. It's the end of my day, basically. I had a great day, and I was just looking forward to conversation.
So I know that we are tackling this podcast from across the Atlantic Ocean. So as across the pond, as I heard those in, I guess, Europe or United Kingdom always say that it's across the pond. I'm here in Virginia, United States, and you are in Cyprus, a little
Yes,
island somewhere in the Mediterranean, I understand.
yes, correct. That's a small island in the Mediterranean for sure. Yes.
And so as we start this journey together, it is November, it's mid-November 2024. And I know that people have told me never date your podcast, but we want to give really a starting point to those who are going to watch, listen, and really invest their time in us and in what we're giving them. So let's kind of get the conversation started with some essential, what is the sacred divine? What is the sacred divine?
I mean, for me, if I think about it, the sacred divine represents a holistic approach to self-discovery. And it's also about empowerment and spiritual connection. I think that's the key. That's the whole focus. And it's also aligning with our one's inner self, utilizing energy systems like the seven chakras, and integrating practices that nurture mind, body, and spirit. I mean, for me, that's the sacred divine.
I love it. And I think as we have discussed and started collaborating on this idea for some time now, for at least much of 2024, much of this calendar year, you have gone through some tremendous growth. And I've just kind of watched that from the side and have really applauded and encouraged you to express yourself more fully in a more spiritual nature. And so I like that you talked about that the sacred divine is a tap into one's spirituality, understanding how the universal energies, including your own energy, really are a part of that. And so when we learn about chakras, when we learn about mindfulness, when we learn about meditation, but we go deeper into the appreciation that all of this together really wraps up into who we are as a divine person, not just a physical person, but a divine person who really has a touch into all the aspects of who we are. So, who are you, Noémi Beres, and how did you become this tremendous person that I'm talking to today?
Do I have to start from the very beginning or jump
Well,
into it?
I know that you have been on a couple of my earlier
Yeah,
podcasts. So you've been on the
correct.
Question Guide, you've been on Coach's Corner, and you even talked about some really deep you've had some really deep conversations with me about your family members. And so I know since COVID, when all of the world was turned upside down, you began doing some incredible work for yourself. And it's from that to today. So we're talking easily 4 years that your life has been transformed. Can you talk about that for a little bit?
Yes, of course. I'm happy to share it. And anytime I'm getting on a podcast, I'm really open about my life. So yes, even before COVID, like 2019 was a very, very challenging year for me because I lost my dad to cancer, then I lost my grandma to an accident. So it was a lot going on, a lot of trauma, tragedy, grief going on in my family. And because I'm an only child, there's no one for my mom and there was no one who could help her. So I couldn't really, look after myself or sit with my emotions of what I went through in 2019 because it was just too much and there was too many things to like, the practicality, arranging funerals and wakes and everything. So I didn't really have time to sit with myself and my thoughts and my grief.
Mm.
And then I didn't really have time after that either because then COVID happened, the pandemic happened, and we lost our business, our online travel related business, which we had since 2007. So it was a lot going on, a lot of trauma. And I think it was when the pandemic happened and the whole world closed down and nobody could go anywhere and we couldn't do anything else. That was the time. And I think I talked about this during one of your conversations as well, that I started to focus on art again because I'm also an artist. I run a podcast booking agency, but I'm also an artist. And I had exhibitions, I had artist installations and artist meetups before COVID. So I was in kind of in this, buzzing art life of Cyprus, but then everything closed down. And then I started to focus on my art just solely just to help myself and get out of that deep dark place that I was in
Yeah.
back in 2020.
Hmm.
And I just started to make collages again. And every evening, like that was a ritual for me. I went into my bedroom, I was listening to an audio, book or music or a podcast, and I just started to work on my collages. So basically that was the start of my healing. But it was a very long, it was a very long time it took place. But yeah, I just took small steps. You can't really like jump ahead. So I just focused on one
Hmm.
day, second day, third day, and that was it. And I didn't have a therapist. I didn't have a coach. I didn't have anything. But I knew that the only thing could help me at that time, that was art. And that's how I started to basically heal myself. I didn't even know that I'm healing myself. Everything was going on a subconscious level. So I was like, that wasn't the plan or something.
And for me, the journey is very similar. And so I had made my fifth suicide attempt at the tail end of COVID and through the quarantine. So we're talking 2021-ish. And so I had struggled emotionally, spiritually, for some time. And to give reference to my background, I am a U.S. Marine combat veteran, and so I have post-traumatic stress disorder, and at times deal with depression and suicidal ideation. And so it was from that time to today that I made some very intentional, specific changes in my life. And one of those changes was to connect with people. I found it absolutely necessary to have conversations, to find out what was going on in somebody else's life, and to share that experience. And so from those conversations, I created, at this point, this is now my seventh, I'll do air quotes, podcast, but it's my seventh different conversation with very special people, you included, of course. And I think for both of us, the change, as you said, very gradual, maybe not even intentional in terms of, I want to achieve something, but we knew deep down that something had to be different. And because of that transformation, both with you and with me, we have created something special. And we call that the sacred divine. So, with all of the things that have been going on in our lives, we are now in a place and a space where we can share that growth journey and all of the things that we've learned with other people. And specifically, not just anybody, but for women who struggle with purpose, identity, even their own value. So, with that being the case, can you talk about how you have found those three things in your life, just briefly? Purpose, identity, and value.
Yes, I mean that, that's a great question and very like very complex as well. Um, when I started the new business in 2020, I mean that was the purpose basically. I mean, obviously you have to, earn money again. I mean that's a purpose for sure. And there's no like, bigger goals or visions or something. I mean, literally you just have to pay your bills at that time, and that's your purpose, and pay your son's tuition and everything. So that's the purpose of the whole thing that is happening. But then it was really interesting because as the business got more successful, I had more time to basically to grieve and to somehow experience my grief and experience my feelings, because I didn't have time for that. Like literally, I didn't have time to think about anything else other than just business
Survival, yeah.
and survival,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah, exactly. That's correct. So it was very interesting because I remember that was, I think, 20. So it was like gradual, as you said, like small steps. For me, it was the importance of self-care. When I was thinking about like, okay, I have to look after myself. I have to stop watching news. I have to stop listening to my mom when she talks about politics and stuff like that. So kind of I created my own bubble.
Mm.
And that really helped me to get through many things that I didn't want to deal with. It's not like I swept things under the carpet, but I was just focusing on myself. And then I started to read books and how I can, help myself. Like we can call it like self-help books as well. I mean, I know a lot of people do that, and there are so many different ideas. But I found my, I think my path, or my, I don't know, my focus on simplicity and how to lead your business and life in a simpler way, and not overanalyze everything and overthink everything, because I am a big overthinker as well. So if somebody knows me, they know it, like I was like that since I was a kid. But I think I changed a lot, and that thanks to all the audiobooks and the books I'm listening or reading. I'm a bookworm, so I love learning new things. I love educating myself, and I think this whole huge like learning curve really helped me to really find myself in that space. And also, it's very interesting because it's not connected to books or anything like that. But I started to exercise, and that was about like 2 years ago when I started. I think that was 2 years ago. Yeah, can't even remember. When I started to walk, and I obviously everybody can walk, but like when I just started to do walking intentionally every single day, just for 10 minutes, and then 20 minutes, and then 30 minutes, and I just raised the time. And because I live in a country where you can really walk like all year round, except when you have like really huge thunderstorms or stuff like that. It's a really nice area, so you can walk every day, and that also really helped me to find myself. Who am I? I just 3-4 years ago, I had sometimes trouble to just walk upstairs to my office because I just felt like I have no energy, I have
Mm.
no purpose, I have no focus on the future or anything.
For me, we both walk every day. So to give
Yeah,
context to what you're saying, for me it's a little bit different. Now I do value being outside, and it actually has become what I call my sacred space. In 2022, and just to give reference to our audience, I had a heart attack. I had a major heart attack. Now, I understand that there are different types. A heart attack is a heart attack. Your heart's not
yeah,
working the way
yeah,
it should. But there's something called the widowmaker. Now, it wasn't that severe, but my medical team at the time, this is 2 years ago, told me you shouldn't be alive right now. And so that was rather significant. When I was released from the hospital, I knew I had to make some very specific changes. Again, so this is a year after my fifth suicide attempt. I now had to redesign how I took care of my physical body. I've always walked, and so historically I've run. And so as I got older, that's not going to work anymore. And I decided walking is still a good thing. I have, I made a decision late 2022, early 2023 to put my walking, give it some purpose. And right now, that purpose is to through hike, and we have a mountain range called the Appalachian Trail here in Eastern Virginia, Eastern America. And so the Appalachian Trail is 2,193 miles, and I intend to complete that trek at this point in 2026. And so I'm doing things in my own life that have been transformational. But it's not just about getting up and outside every day and hiking those 15, maybe even 20 miles in a single day with a 35-pound backpack. It has been a spiritual journey as well because I have become more aligned with who I am. I'm much more comfortable with who I am, and I'm much more powerful and confident in who I am just from going outside and walking. So it's not just been a physical transformation, it has been a life transforming experience. But I want to come back to the idea that the sacred divine is a space, a place, a journey, and a process. Now we've identified it for women. I'm sure men can go kind of go through the same process as well, but our focus is specifically for women. Can you identify why this is so important for women to go through and find their own sacred divine space?
I think it's very important for women because we wear too many hats. I mean, in our lives, and obviously men do too. But I think, I mean, we are the mothers, like not everyone, obviously, but a lot of us. And we are the mothers, and we work. Maybe we are entrepreneurs. We have a business to run. Also, you look after your elderly parents because we are at that age, like you are when you are like in your, late 30s, 40s. I mean, you reach that age that yeah, I mean, there are elderly parents out there. You work, you try to organize everything, get home and cook and clean and laundry. And so there's a lot of things. We wear too many hats. And
Mm.
I don't think we have enough time for ourselves. And that's a major problem. And I realized that too in my life, during COVID time, that I didn't really look after myself because I was always looking after my son, my mom, my dad who was sick, and I was just really preoccupied with everyone in the family apart from me. And then, but I knew that that can continue forever, and I have to look after myself if I want to be there for for my son, or for my mother, or for myself.
Mm.
So I think we just too busy. Like I hate that word, but yes, I mean life is busy, and women are very busy, and we just don't look after ourselves.
So this is going to be a place for women to find themselves, to nurture themselves, to transform themselves,
Yes.
and to find their purpose and identity. So I like that. I love what we're doing. And again, I think you are the perfect model, given that what you have been through, how you've specifically transformed your life. Before we end this particular conversation, our first of many podcast conversations to come, one more thing about you, because you were on with some of your colleagues the Envision Speaker Series, and I'm going to pat myself on the back. I started the Envision Speaker Series after creating the Question Guy and Coach's Corner, but you identified yourself for the first time as somebody who wants to help other people. Now, we've had that conversation with Tina and Sheila, and I will put the link to that video in the show notes to this particular podcast. You want to help people heal through what? Art,
Through
as I
art.
remember.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, we had a great conversation with Tina and Sheila. And yeah, and that was the first time when I talked about openly. And I figured out that if I'm an artist and I don't want to, or I'm not, my intention is not to just, sell art right now, but with the help of art and like making art, how to teach people to make art and how to help them to heal with the help of art, even with music. I love drumming. I have different drums, and I'm not a professional musician, but I love drumming. And also, I'm any kind of form of art. It can be dancing, making art, or anything that's connected to that can really help to change your life. And I know you said that you're not an artist and you could never draw anything, or there are many people out there who just like, no, I can't do anything. I mean, for example, in my case, I'm a collage artist. I love making collages, different type, digital, hand sewn, paper, cut and paste collages, and probably the paper collages are the easiest way for anyone. Even my son could do it when he was like 3, 4 years old, and he could use a pair of scissors and glue. And anyone can, just clip out or pay, any kind of pictures from a magazine and put it on another paper and glue it there. So that's a form of art too. So I would love to, help people, teach people how to maybe meditate through art, because it's a form of meditation. And yeah, I just love to help them through their journey and help to heal them from trauma, anxiety, and grief.
Noemi, there is so much that we need to cover, and we have a lot of time to do it. We have a lot of people to help, and we have a lot of women to help them take control of their life again. So I want to thank you for your time today, Noemi. It's always a pleasure to have you in conversation. For everybody else, of course, this is the Sacred Divine, and we'll see you later. Take care.